So I was sitting with my Latin textbook the other day, and I ran into something that just stopped me. The sentence was, Dicit auroram terras novo lumine sparcisse. And my textbook offered two perfectly valid translations. He says dawn has sprinkled the land with new light, or he says dawn sprinkled the land with new light. Now to most people, that probably looks like a minor stylistic choice. Has sprinkled or sprinkled. What's the big deal, right? But it bugged me. Those are actually two different tenses in English. Has sprinkled is the present perfect. Sprinkled is the simple past. They don't mean exactly the same thing. So why is one Latin form translating to both? I needed answers. So I did what any reasonable person does at 11 at night. I opened up Google Gemini and asked it to explain Latin's perfect tense. And the answer was genuinely fascinating. It turns out that Latin's perfect tense covers two distinct concepts that English has decided to split into two completely separate structures. A form like dixit, past tense of to say, can mean either he said, a simple completed action in the past, or he has said, a past action that carries some relevance into the present moment. Latin uses one form, English needs two. I sat with that for a second. Then I flipped back through my textbook and I started noticing the same pattern with the present tense. Latin's present could map to the English simple present or the English progressive or even the emphatic form. So I went back to Gemini and asked the obvious follow-up. Okay, so how do we actually decide which English tense to use when we're translating a Latin verb? And here's where it got really interesting. Gemini said, you have to move from morphology to pragmatics, from what the word is to how it's being used in context. Because Latin is a compressed language. The verb ending encodes some information, but it leaves other information, specifically the manner of the action, to be inferred from the surrounding environment. The context does the work that the verb form itself just doesn't bother to do. Which made me wonder, is this just the perfect tense? Is it just a couple of tenses? Or is this something bigger? So I went back to my textbook. I formed a hypothesis, and then I confirmed it with Gemini. Every single one of Latin's 6 tenses maps to multiple English forms. Every single one. And that's when Gemini said something that kind of blew my mind. What I had stumbled onto wasn't just a quirk of the perfect tense. It was the core structural difference between Latin and English as languages. Latin is what linguists call a synthetic language. English is an analytic language. In Latin, the verb ending tells you the time, the tense, but it leaves the manner, what linguists call the aspect, completely open. That gets filled in by context, by the surrounding sentence, by what makes sense in the story. In English, we use separate auxiliary verbs, helper verbs, for every single variation of manner. We spell it all out explicitly. Let me show you what this actually looks like in practice. Take the Latin present tense, one form. It can map to he scatters, he is scattering, he does scatter, 3 different English structures. The Latin imperfect, he was scattering, he used to scatter, he kept scattering. That ongoing, repeated quality of past action, all packed into one Latin ending. The future, he will scatter, he is going to scatter. The perfect, he scattered, he has scattered. The future perfect, he will have scattered, he shall have scattered. The one exception, the pluperfect, he had scattered, which is already so specific, so precisely defined, that it maps neatly to just one English form. Even Latin has its moments of precision. So what do synthetic and analytic actually mean as a concept? A synthetic language fuses multiple pieces of grammatical information into a single word. In Latin, one verb form can encode the person, the number, the tense, the mood, and the voice, all baked into that one ending. It trusts the word to carry the weight. An analytic language spreads that information across multiple separate words. Think about the English phrase, I will have been being watched. 6 words, 6 separate pieces working together. English is spelling out every detail explicitly, leaving nothing to inference. It's two fundamentally different philosophies about how to encode meaning in language. Latin says, trust the ending, the context will handle the rest. English says, spell it out, every nuance gets its own word. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every time you pick up a Latin text and choose between he scattered and he has scattered, you're not just translating a verb, you're bridging two entirely different ways of thinking about language itself.